All right, let's talk about a huge case that could genuinely change the way you subscribe to things online. We're talking about Amazon, its Prime membership, and a settlement that's worth billions.
Okay, let's just start with the number that has everyone talking. $2.5 billion. That is the incredible amount of money Amazon has agreed to pay in a settlement with U.S. federal regulators. It's a number that just makes you stop and pay attention.
So what's this all about? Well, this settlement is with the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. They alleged that Amazon was using some pretty shady practices to get people signed up for and keep them locked into its super popular Prime service. To really get why this is such a big deal, we need to rewind a little bit and look at how we even got here and what regulators were so upset about.
This whole thing really kicked off with a lawsuit the FTC filed back in 2023. Their claim was pretty bold. They said for more than a decade, Amazon tricked millions of shoppers into signing up for Prime and then made it ridiculously hard to cancel.
Now, the heart of the FTC's entire case, the thing it all hinged on, was the use of so-called dark patterns in Amazon's website design.
Dark patterns might sound a little dramatic, but it's a real term with a serious legal definition. The FTC calls them web designs that are, and I'm quoting here, manipulative, coercive, or deceptive. It's all about tricking you into doing something you didn't actually want to do.
So how did Amazon do it? Well, the FTC said that when you went to check out, the main button to complete your purchase didn't make it clear that you were also enrolling in a Prime membership, a membership that, by the way, auto-renews at $139 a year. That's a pretty nasty surprise.
And if you thought signing up was sneaky, just try getting out. If you wanted to cancel, you had to go through a process that Amazon's own employees called the Iliad. Like the epic poem about the super long Trojan War. It was a confusing maze of pages and prompts, all designed to make you just give up.
And look, this wasn't just speculation. It came from inside the company. Court documents showed that Amazon's own employees, like a former user experience researcher named Reed Nelson, had warned about these designs. This quote says it all. Their business goals were hard to hit if they were just more honest about it. Wow.
So you have deceptive signups and impossible cancellations. How does all that add up to a $2.5 billion penalty? Well, let's break down where all that money's going.
The settlement is basically split in two. The biggest piece, $1.5 billion, is actually set aside for consumer payouts. That's money that's supposed to go back to the customers who were affected. The other $1 billion is a civil penalty that goes straight to the government.
And let's be really clear about that $1 billion fine. It's not just the big number, it is the single largest civil penalty the Federal Trade Commission has ever dished out, ever. They are sending a massive message to the entire industry.
So, the big question for a lot of you, who gets a refund? Well, if you were signed up using that single-page checkout feature over a 6-year period, you might be eligible. And the good news is, for many, these reimbursements of up to $51 are supposed to be automatic.
But this whole thing isn't just about the money. The settlement is forcing Amazon to make real, actual changes to its website. Let's look at what you'll probably see next time you're checking out.
The key change really comes down to one word: clarity. Amazon now has to redesign its whole checkout and cancellation process to be way more transparent. No more confusing buttons, no more hidden subscriptions. The goal is simple. You should know exactly what you're signing up for.
So why does this one case against one company matter so much? To answer that, we have to zoom out a little and look at the bigger picture here.
Just think about this number for a second. Over 200 million. That's how many Prime members there are around the world. When you're operating at that kind of scale, even a tiny deceptive design choice can impact a massive number of people and bring in huge amounts of money. And that's exactly why regulators had to step in.
The legal firepower for this case came from a 2010 law called the Restore Online Shoppers Confidence Act. By using it successfully against the giant like Amazon, regulators are basically putting every other online subscription service on notice. They're watching, and they're not messing around anymore.
So this case really sets a major precedent. One of the biggest companies in the world has been forced to change its ways and pay a historic price, which really leaves the final question to you. Will this level of scrutiny and this fight against dark patterns actually change how you look at and interact with subscriptions all across the internet?